Let's start off, though, today, like yesterday, on our Money Matters series. This week, the BBC is talking about the cost of living crisis, and today we're focusing on benefits. So, as always, love to hear your take on this. If you are on one kind of benefit or another, and, you know, that could be universal credit, it could be a state pension, it could be something entirely different. And you are wondering how you're going to afford to pay for the various things that are increasing in price, then, 0808 100 3700, our phone line is open. You can email Steve Harris at bbc.co.uk. We'll hear from a Swanage woman who found herself thrown into the benefit system last year after suddenly losing both her job and her home. She has now compiled advice to help others. But first, let's cross to Weymouth, where our reporter Lawrence Herman is standing by and basing himself this morning. Loz is at a place designed to help people who are finding it hard to make ends meet. Tell us more, Loz.
Yeah, good morning, Steve. I think just to put this into context, if you look across Dorset as a county, you're talking you've got 11 areas of the county that are the most deprived nationally. You've got 9 areas that are the most deprived nationally for income. And in total, you've got 17,000 workless households across the county. Now, if you juxtapose that against the current situation, the cost of living with energy prices on the rise, the cuts in universal credit, more gas and electric costs going up next month, it's making it very difficult for some households, for some individuals to make ends meet. And they really are up against the breadline. Here this morning, we're in a community pantry, if you like, or sometimes called a sofa superstore. We're on Abbotsbury Road in Weymouth. We're in the old Waverley pub, for those that know the area. And we're in this wonderful store that has a whole range of food and provisions that are available for people that are struggling to make ends meet at a discounted price. The store is run by Eli Holland, who's with me now. Very good morning to you, Eli.
Morning.
What have you seen since the store opened over the last, just over a year or so, in terms of demographic and in terms of numbers coming through the front door?
Yeah, so we've seen a really large demand overall. We opened obviously in a world with the pandemic going on, so that was a certain group of people who were really struggling. And at the time it seemed like that might be the peak of issues, but things have only got worse and worse from there. All demographics of people. We've got families, we've got people on pensions, we've got young people who are working lots of hours, but just it's not cutting it at the moment. So we've got lots and lots of demand. We've had over 450 members now currently signed up, which means 450 households have access to the shop. And out of that, at least 80 or more have been in the last month signed up. So the demand is really there. And it's an increasingly number of people who are working part-time, full-time work, but still the numbers just aren't adding up at the moment. Costs are going up by so much that people are really struggling.
I think that will raise an eyebrow. We were chatting offline about filling in forms of the type of customers that you're getting. Give me a snapshot of that demographic.
Yeah, so as I say, I really think it is all demographics, basically. We've got lots of families, people with kids, we've got lots of older people on fixed pensions where when the prices are going up, it's not the increases in the pension aren't matching that. Lots of young people. I spoke to somebody who was working 60 hours a week as a young person, but still that wasn't enough to be able to find anywhere they could rent. It's just the impossibility of the situation for all sorts of people all over the town really comes across.
And just let us know, in a couple of hours' time, this store will open up, one of a couple of days in the week. What are you expecting, the numbers of people coming through the door, and what is available here?
Yeah, so Tuesday's our busiest day, so I'd imagine it'll be quite a rush this morning. We normally have a queue from about 9 a.m, and we don't open till 10. And we've got fresh bread, fruit and veg, which is all free. That's all very popular, especially people with kids. And then otherwise, we've got eggs, meat in the fridge. I'm sure that'll all be very popular and hopefully go a small way towards helping people, cover their costs at the moment.
Well, good to chat for now, Eli. We'll chat to one of the directors here, Neil Hardesty, in an hour or so's time. But just looking around here, Steve, I'm looking at loaves of bread that would have been thrown out by supermarkets, rolls, pastries, scones. There are all manner of cans of tinned tomatoes, there's packets of pasta, there's fresh vegetables here, turnips, onions, watercress, basil. So this indeed is a lifeline for some people in this area where there are pockets of deprivation across Dorset, like here in Westham and other areas of the former Weymouth and Portland Borough Council.
Thank you, Lawrence. Lawrence Herman live for us on the Abbotsbury Road there in Weymouth. Well, the welfare system was set up to be a safety net for all of us, should we need it. One person who found herself in that situation last year was Abby Parker from Swanage. You've spoken to her a few times on the show. She lost her job during the pandemic and then lost her home in a house fire. Abby found accessing benefits wasn't straightforward, to say the least, and her experience has led her to produce a leaflet with the town council in Swanage for people who find themselves in a similar situation. Morning, Abby.
Good morning, Steve.
Nice to talk to you again. But before we get on to the leaflet, just give me a few lines on people on benefits. How big of a gulf do you think there is between people setting the kind of political agenda? Let's say the government, but at a local level, that might be a local authority, and people who are living on these fixed and small sums of money?
I think the gap is huge, and these huge price hikes are, outrageous and unsustainable. And I think people are at the point where they just want to give up because it seems unmanageable, the whole situation. And that's a really sad and sorry state of affairs, really.
Yeah. Could more be being done for one party to understand the other?
Yes, obviously it could be. The government are supposed to be there to protect us and administer the funds that we give to them in an effective way. Clearly, they do not do that, and everything's constantly going up, and people just can't cope anymore. So there needs to be more dialogue, and then more importantly, they need to listen,
I said that your journey through the benefits system had not been straightforward. I think that probably is a shortened version of that story. You really did. I mean, this is where this leaflet's come from. You really did have to fight to wind up, in your own place. Ultimately, we spoke to you when you just moved into your flats around Christmas time, and getting the money that was sort of owed to you, due to you.
Yeah, it's like wading through very thick molasses dealing with the benefit system. It seems to be designed to be as complicated as possible. I'm a fairly intelligent person, and I've struggled to get even the basic funding from them. So that's quite worrying, really, isn't it?
And this is what led you to the leaflet, to try and sort of take your experience and turn it into something that could help others. So give me some kind of perspective on this. Talk me through it.
Yeah, so the leaflet, we produced 5,000, 4,000 of which have been distributed locally now. We've had great feedback from that. People are obviously worried about the fuel price hike, so they're getting in touch with Citizens Advice. I know a lot of people also are struggling with mental health, so they've utilised the resources like Connections, Samaritans, Steps to Wellbeing. So we've had really good feedback from that, and I want to get this information out to as many people as possible, because it's down to us to help each other, really. We need compassion and empathy and proactive measures to deal with this situation.
Where do people get their hands on this, Abby?
Well, we can send it to them via email. If you could be kind enough to put it on your Facebook page, they can email our amazing town councillor, Debbie Monkhouse, and she will email that out or post it to them. And then locally, it's obviously gone through the doors.
And can I ask how you're getting on now? I mean, I guess it's for many people on benefits, not a place they want to be. Like I say, the pandemic led to you being one of those many people who lost your job. Are you kind of getting things back on track?
Slowly but surely, yes. I mean, it takes time to recover from that kind of event. But obviously, I'm in an amazing place where we've got amazing town councillors and local support networks, and CAB are doing a new drop-in service from the first Monday of every month from the 4th of April. That's a great resource to have. We've got a community cafe starting weekly on Mondays, 10 till 2, and Sustainable Swanage are doing a clothes swap on the 9th of April. So I really encourage people to make the most of these resources that are now available and get some help.
Really nice to talk to you again, Abby Parker from Swanage. We're looking at the cost of living this week, and today we're talking about benefits. We'll be back in a moment with our reporter Lawrence Urban, who's at The Nest in Weymouth, a community pantry there in the old Waverley pub on Abbotsbury Road. But first, let me bring you this from the last hour. Abby Parker from Swanage. Remember, we spoke to her quite a lot last year. She found herself thrown into the benefits system during the pandemic when she lost her job and then lost her home in a fire. Well, now she's designed a leaflet to help those who might follow her into the benefits system because of how challenging she found it.
It's like wading through very thick molasses dealing with the benefits system. It seems to be designed to be as complicated as possible. I'm a fairly intelligent person and I've struggled to get even the basic funding from them. So that's quite worrying, really, isn't it?
And this is what led you to the leaflet, to try and sort of take your experience and turn it into something that could help others. So give me some kind of perspective on this. Talk me through it.
Yeah, so the leaflet, we produced 5,000, 4,000 of which have been distributed locally now. We've had great feedback from that. People are obviously worried about the fuel price hike, so they're getting in touch with Citizens Advice. I know a lot of people also are struggling with mental health. So they've utilised the resources like Connections, Samaritans, Steps to Wellbeing, and want to get this information out to as many people as possible, because it's down to us to help each other, really. We need compassion and empathy and proactive measures to deal with this situation.
And can I ask how you're getting on now? I guess it's for many people on benefits not a place they want to be. Like I say, the pandemic led to you being one of those many people who lost your job. Are you kind of getting things back on track?
Slowly but surely, yes. It takes time to recover from that kind of event. But obviously, I'm in an amazing place where we've got amazing local support networks. We've got a community cafe starting weekly on Mondays, 10 till 2. And Sustainable Swanage are doing a clothes swap on the 9th of April. So I really encourage people to make the most of these resources that are now available and get some help.
Abby Parker from Swanage talking to us in the last hour. Well, this morning, as I say, we've been at the Nest in Weymouth, hearing about a scheme to support people who are struggling. We can cross live now to our reporter, Lawrence Urban. Morning again, Lawrence.
Yeah, good morning, Steve. And for those listening, it might be worthwhile just letting people know why this place is called The Nest. It's really a vision to support people to get from dependence to independence, if you like. And here we are this morning. We've moved from the Nest store with all the food and provisions. We've walked through the corridors into what used to be the old bar of the Waverley pub. And looking around now on the hardwood floor, you've got 6 wooden tables with colourful chairs around them, brightly lit room, and a cafe to all intents and purposes, with a servery and fridges and ovens and water urns, etc. The brains behind the operation and the director here is Neil Hardesty. Neil, you've come from virtually nowhere to having this operation within 16 months, and on the horizon, in just under a fortnight's time, you've got another shop opening up.
We certainly have, yeah. We started off with the vision of providing food for the people just above the food bank level, to set up a community meeting place with a cafe, and thirdly, to reduce the amount of waste food. And in about 16 months, it's just grown and mushroomed. So we opened our first shop back in November 2020. We opened this cafe here in November 2021, and we're opening a second shop in the Littlemore area of Weymouth on the 12th of April. So it's been an amazing growth.
What have you seen in terms of numbers coming through the door, particularly in the last month with the rise in the cost of living? Has it been quite a significant change that you've seen?
Without a doubt, in the shop, yes, we've seen roughly a 25% increase in the number of members in the last 5 or 6 weeks. The cafe is getting busier, and there's been a call from Littlemore for us to move and open in Littlemore, because there are a lot of people over there who find it difficult to actually travel across Weymouth to get to the present shop, and therefore the obvious thing to do is to plan to open another venue, and that's what we're doing.
Well, stick with me, Neil, because just down the road here in this very large community of Westham, just outside Weymouth Town Centre, we've got Westham Methodist Church, and there's a food bank there. I took the opportunity to pop down yesterday and met up with Janet Amy, who's an outreach worker there. And it was a day where there were people who had low disposable incomes, who were largely struggling to be able to afford to buy food regularly, who popped in and picked up carrier bags of food. And I asked Janet about the types of people that were coming through the front door.
We're seeing a mixture of people, some people without homes at all, so we have to adjust the needs of the food that we give them. And then we get some people that just can't afford. They can't afford food. They're trying to pay for everything else, and then food's just something that is a luxury. We have people coming here that are so hungry because they don't come here when their food runs out. They come here when their food has run out and they've tried to cope since that. So when they come here, they are very low self-esteem, very ashamed of the position they're in, and it's pretty sad. Anybody in today's society can get to a stage where they just can't afford food. It's nothing to be ashamed of. It's part of the society we live in. It's part of the pressures of rising costs in fuel, having to pay for children, having to do uniforms, having to apply for jobs, having to just the pressures of day-to-day life. And we've got a fantastic group of volunteers here that sort out the distribution and to get it to these points to be collected. You know, we don't own this food. This is not our food. This is people in society know that society at the moment is falling short, and they've contributed to this. And even the clients that come in, they give food to as much, and they help one another.
Neil, can you relate to what Janet is saying there and just give us a comparison, if you like, between those people that use food banks and those that use facilities like your own here, like community shops?
Yes, certainly can. There was a survey done 3 years ago which looked at food insecurity, and it discovered that there were roughly 4 times as many people who were just food insecure as opposed to those who were severely food insecure, who were basically food bank clients. And so the idea of social supermarkets, community shops, is to meet the needs of, in Weymouth and Portland, there would be around about 8,000 people who would be eligible or needed to be able to come and shop here and get good quality food at really cheap prices. They can get 2 bags of food off the shelf for £3.50, and on top of that they get free fruit, free veg and free bread items.
Neil, thank you very much indeed. And just to say, Steve, I'm picking up the menu here at the Nest Cafe. The shop will open at its doors at 10 o'clock this morning, but you can pick up a cup of coffee for a couple of pounds, or for members just 50 pence. You can get a toastie with side salad and crisps for £3, only £1.20 for members. And as I say, the doors will open at 10 o'clock for those carrier bags to be picked up later, discounted food. And it's quite hard to remember that this used to be a pub, and perhaps a reminder of that is in the shop in the corner there is a discarded pool table which they can't actually get out of the building because there's no longer an entrance that's wide enough to get it out. So on top you've got crates and boxes of food and drinks and all sorts of stuff.
Brilliant. Thank you, Lawrence. Lawrence Urban down at the Nest in Weymouth for us this morning. BBC Radio Solar. Pat Sissons